On this week's NLB, Battlefield 4, Marvel's new Thor, Blizzcon, direct from the show floor, all that and more. Stick around, I implore. Welcome to Newest, Latest, Best. I'm your host, Jeff Cannata. And just a reminder here at the top to subscribe and favorite and share the episode with your friends. We got some great episodes coming up in the next couple of weeks. New consoles, PS4, Xbox One. You're not going to want to miss it. You can also follow me on Twitter at Jeff Cannata with 2 N's and 1 T. But right now, let's get right to the newest. I couldn't wait for the next gen to play the newest game this week, Battlefield 4. I had to get it for PC. And the first thing you notice when you boot up Battlefield 4, and if you're lucky enough, like I was, to be able to play it on ultra settings on my PC, is that this game is gorgeous. Showing off that brand new Frostbite engine and all its glory. Holy moly, this game is sumptuous. It's showing stuff on a level that I only dreamed about just a few years ago. Particularly levels like the storming of the beach in China, where there's this, you're in the middle of a hurricane and the trees are bending and cars are being flipped and you're still being pelted with rain and running across the beach shooting bad guys. Amazing. The effects, the acting of the virtual characters, everything is top notch. And the multiplayer is back. Battlefield 4, of course, known for its awesome, huge map multiplayer with vehicles and tons of people running around. That is all great. There's even a new mode called Obliteration, I believe, which is lots of fun and really cool as well. I might be the last person in the world who actually buys these games for the single player, however. I love those campaign modes. So while I'm not the best judge of the multiplayer modes, because that's not really my jam, I can tell you that the single player in Battlefield 4 was a little disappointing. I didn't enjoy it. Mostly, that had to do with gigantic technical problems that I had. Crashes over and over. Even in the multiplayer, I got crashes. It was very frustrating. Now, of course, on a PC, you have tons of variables that could account for your crashes, and it could be just my particular setup. But I don't have any other PC games that are crashing, and anecdotally, a lot of people on Twitter have been talking to me, because I've been complaining about it, that they had problems with crashes for Battlefield 4 as well. That's not cool. For a big, high-profile product like this, it's gotta work. Okay, when it was working, how was the single-player campaign? I didn't really enjoy it. The best parts of this game in the single player are when the game takes control out of your hands. They keep relying over and over on this, the entire level is being ripped in half and you are going tumbling. And that's spectacular. It's incredible. The technology on display to rip an entire aircraft carrier in half while you're standing on it, or plummet you out of the sky off some bridge, or having a dam burst through with water. All of that is technically stunning and looks gorgeous. But it's those moments when I'm not playing. I can't. My mouse and keyboard are not functional. The game is just showing me something super cool. When I am playing, the firefights are, kind of mundane. And the game constantly has me running up to a box that is inexplicably placed in this level that includes all the guns I could possibly want. Why is it there? Because it's a video game. I did like some of the video game elements, adding scores, multipliers to scores, showing me my progress through a level, letting me unlock, based on my score, new weapons. That gamification of the single player is pretty cool. But what I ended up doing moment to moment, the story I'm being told, not very interesting, kind of run of the mill, and it hits the same beats over and over. I'm constantly putting myself in a situation, the ground is crumbling underneath me, I go tumbling. So yes, you are likely to have fun playing multiplayer Battlefield 4, and I know for most of you that's what you're buying this game for, and you're saying, shut up, Jeff! Who cares about the single player? Well, you already know that you're going to have fun playing Battlefield 4 multiplayer when it's not crashing. It's that single player experience that if you're like me, one of the very few left that values that, I can't recommend this. All right. From that topic, on to a better one. Alex Albrecht is back, and we're talking about the sequel to Thor. Yeah! That's up next in the latest. Back by popular demand.
Well,
Alex
back.
Albrecht. Hey, the people demanded it.
Yeah.
We gotta stop doing this. People start talking.
I know, right? Well, I wore my green.
You wore your green.
I was like, you were right. I can wear green.
That's right.
I've like been. There's literally this is one of my favorite shirts, and it's been on TRS like twice.
Right.
Because it was like out in the wild. Yeah, exactly.
All right. So you came back because we
did.
went to see Thor: The Dark World. Not The Dark World. Thor: Dark World.
No, Thor: The Dark World.
Is it the?
It is. I thought it was The Dark of the World.
Thor 2.
Thor. It's Thor 2.
Thor 2. Okay. This one, of course, the first one, Kenneth Branagh directed.
Yep.
Now we've got a new director who actually is most notable for directing episodes of Game of Thrones.
Yeah, Alan Taylor. And by
Alan
the way,
Taylor.
crazy, directed the pilot for Mad Men. So that guy's rolling in the coin.
That's right. And now, this is a very different Thor movie than the first one. It really is clear to me what Marvel is trying to do with their Phase 2 plan. Really taking these characters and putting them in their own worlds, establishing their own corner of this universe. Because I really feel like the first Thor movie was like, here's the character, here he is on Earth, setting it up for the Avengers, he's a superhero.
Yeah.
This, not really a superhero movie. This is a fantasy movie.
Yeah, it's a Thor movie.
It's a Thor movie. We're in Asgard almost the entire film.
Yeah.
So it's very much, doesn't feel like the last movie, it doesn't feel like a superhero movie to me. But it does have something that I know Dan Trachtenberg used to always talk about wanting, which is sci-fi versus fantasy.
Oh,
the bad guys in this movie are dark elves, but they're sort of the fantasy, the sci-fi spaceships and laser pistols against our Asgardian fantasy guys.
Space boats and hammers.
Right.
And swords.
So
although the swords kind of shoot things.
What did you think of this Thor?
I loved it. I was pretty shocked. I enjoyed the Thor, the original one, but I didn't love it. There was something sort of like, oh yeah, that happened. You know what I mean? But this one, man, this one really feels like it exists in the universe where the Avengers exists, where Iron Man exists. You know what I mean? Whereas I felt like that other Thor was sort of like, it was this, this thing that happened, and it didn't really feel like it connected all that much. And maybe it's because I've seen Avengers now and seen him interact as Thor, and it makes more sense to me. Because I also was never a Thor comic guy, so I didn't get him. You know what I mean? I was sort of like Norse god. I don't get how that fits.
But it's interesting because this one is even more away from Earth and New York and all those things.
Yeah, but I think maybe I just get what the character is and what it does. First off, hats off to the writers and Alan Taylor. This movie flies, literally. And there are moments when Thor does stuff. Like, one of the things that I was like giddy in laughter of was when he jumps backwards off of the balcony, grabs the hammer mid-flight, and then goes shooting off. And I was like, yes!
That was like, there's like 6 moments like that in Avengers.
Yes, exactly.
But there's only one of them in this movie.
This is true.
But it's a pretty awesome one.
This is true. Yeah, like the jumping behind the thing in Avengers. Like but it was one of those moments where I was like,
oh, that's what superheroes do.
Thor is doing stuff that humans don't do. You know what I mean? And there were some really great dialogue quips. And the other thing I have to say, again, hats off, I think mostly to the director, though I'm sure a lot of this had to do with the screenplay, was the end battle culminates when there are like invisible portals that are open and that they're being like fighting through into different worlds. I tracked everything that was going on.
Yeah.
I never once was like, wait, where the hell are we?
Right.
And we were in like 1,000 places at once.
It reminds me of Jumper, the end of Jumper.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Very cool. But even, I mean, like, it was just, there were moments that were really Really, really great. And I thought all the acting was phenomenal, and the story was really interesting. It was sort of lots of twists and turns.
Well,
and I mean, it's chock-a-block of amazing actors. I mean, that's
true.
the thing. I think this movie is, of all the maybe the Avengers movies had some, more, but I think the Thor movies are the ones that are the most stacked with amazing, talented actors. And actresses.
I liked it a lot as well. I don't think I liked it as much as the first Thor movie.
Interesting.
I really had a good time with it though. It's really interesting how funny it is.
Yeah.
It's like the Avengers was, where you're thrilled by an action beat one moment and then laughing at a great,
Which I think has now come to sort of be part of, the Nolan verse, and all the DC stuff is all dark, gritty, real, and the Marvel stuff has sort of converted. I mean, because even think about Iron Man. The original Iron Man was all about that.
And Iron Man 3 is even more funny.
More. Oh yeah.
And it's funny that you bring that up, because that is one of the things that I found really missing from Man of Steel, is like a sense of humor, a sense of fun.
Yeah.
These movies are fun, and I had a lot of fun watching Thor: Dark World. I really did. The side characters are very fun. I think Loki is might be the most interesting Marvel character that they have now.
Yeah.
And Hiddleston is amazing.
Amazing.
And his role in this movie is so great. I love what they did. It's so in character.
Yeah.
And it makes so much sense. And having the Dark Elves be the bad guy is such an interesting choice, because they're unique and different, and I don't know if I've ever seen a dark elf in a movie before.
Only in like a Lord of the Rings movie.
Well, not even that, really. I mean, there's no dark elves.
That's true. I guess so.
It's really fun and funny. My gripes are
What didn't you like?
I thought the way that we get what's her name, Natalie Portman's character, into the mix is really contrived. Like, the fact that it was her...
It is very coincidental.
It's very Lois Lane. Like, all the old Superman comics, and cartoons and stuff from the olden days.
Yeah.
Lois Lane was always the chick who got herself into problems, because she was always the one who just happened to be there.
Right.
But it's always her.
Right.
And that's kind of how I felt in this situation, too. It's like...
Although they are the only people... She is one of the only people that is seeking out that exact thing.
Yes.
So there's a little bit... No, I don't disagree with you at all.
Right. So
I just didn't, it didn't ping on me when
it bugged me a little bit, and I think the movie is slow to ramp up, but once it gets going, it gets really going, and we're having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You said it felt like a fast freight train. For me, the freight train didn't kick in until like half an hour in.
Got it. Well, the other thing too, and I know Dan had always talked about this, and I 100% agreed with him. A lot of the movies like Green Lantern was sort of did this a lot, but also the original Thor, which was you would see these amazing like vistas of these crazy science fiction places that you would never think that anybody could possibly live in. Like you would just see like specks of people walking on a thing that would fall off into infinity and everybody would die. I mean, it's like it didn't feel like it could be a place that you could actually live. This really felt like Asgard, because Asgard felt that way in the original Thor. I was like, no, but giant hallways, it would take 20 minutes just to walk down and say hey to somebody, you know what I mean? Like, come on.
Yeah, no, I agree
but
with you.
With this one, it felt way
better.
More, and I think that had a lot to do with the Game of Thrones-ness of it, because there were these like little corners that felt like it was in Asgard, but that felt like they were little corners where people were hanging out, you know what I mean?
And Chris Hemsworth is awesome.
Fantastic.
Could not be a better person to play Thor.
Yeah, fantastic. There are these people that have been able to sort of key into these characters in such a way. Wolverine is a perfect example. I mean, it's like, who else could play him?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But Hugh Jackman. And it's the same thing with Thor. And to be honest, even Chris Evans. I remember being so concerned about Chris Evans as Captain America. And Tony Stark. I mean, come on. Like they've been able to just genius bits of casting.
I agree. Yeah. So we both recommend Thor: The Dark World, and we're giving it
2 thumbs up.
Thorms.
Thumbs up.
New consoles are right around the corner, but Blizzard is here to remind us why PC gaming is still awesome. After a year off, BlizzCon is back, and we're here to talk about it. I picked the perfect person to hang out with me and talk about this. Scott Johnson.
Hey, what's going on, Jeff? Good to see you, man.
Good to see you,
Good
too.
to see you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The Instance podcast, you are a Blizzard expert.
Well, we've been around doing this for a while.
Or as I like to call it, a Blizzpert.
Blizzpert is the correct term. We're working toward 8 years of this show, so you'd
Wow.
hope after that much time we've got a few things down as far as Blizzard goes.
I can't
and World of
believe that
Warcraft.
World of Warcraft is like 9 years.
Yeah, that's crazy, right? We're
a
about to
long
hit it. In
time.
fact, I remember just not a few days ago, I'll do this once in a while, especially with my kids. We'll sit down and we'll say, let's watch all the Blizzard cinematics together. It's a thing we do. We like it.
That's nice.
So we played the first one, and the very first thing is a voice that says, 10 years of Warcraft, and a huge thing that comes across. And they're talking about orcs and humans,
Wow,
not
yeah,
this
the
business.
RTS.
We're about to do that again. It's just crazy.
That is crazy.
Totally crazy.
Big year for BlizzCon. Big announcements. Chief among them, the new expansion for World of Warcraft.
Yep.
Warlords of Draenor.
Yeah.
You know, Miss a Pandaria a couple
Yeah.
years ago, or came out last year. They announced it a couple years ago.
Yep.
Light and fluffy pandas, adorable pets. Joy. This
If you
darker.
remember, though, that was like, there was a real important moment in Blizzard history where they went, here's what we're doing, and we're doing it with pandas. And that got a little bit ugly for some players. Players
Yeah.
are like, oh no, panda,
Too
this
cute.
and too cute, right.
Right.
But what they did is over the time since release till now, and they're still doing it with patches, they have proven that they could make a pretty interesting and very, turns out, kind of dark story.
Yeah,
in
I
and
agree.
around that stuff, right?
And Mist is awesome. I came to it a little late because I wasn't super excited,
Yeah.
but it delivers. It's
really
awesome.
does, yeah.
And this one is definitely that darker tone right off. It's the orcs time traveling, and we get lots of really cool features.
No, we're back to square one in a very real way,
Yeah.
and not in a bad way. This isn't them rehashing content. This
Right.
is them saying, remember these old days, and those of you who don't, let's catch you up on these old days. What did these days mean? Now things that happen today in Miss Pandaria might make sense to you because this happened so long ago or whatever, and to be able to take those two timelines and tie them together with some. In video games, I'm cool with time travel. Don't like it in my movies. Don't like it in my books. I'm great with it in
I
games.
like it in everything.
You're a time travel guy.
I am.
For me, I nitpick it. I'll see Looper and go, and I'll list off 5 things I hated. But
Right.
this will be done well. I'm confident about. But more importantly, over all of that, it shows Blizzard's willingness to stick their neck out twice in a row, really. Now, there's going to be less freak out on the fan base because they're going to say, oh yeah, hardcore, back to the hardcore.
Right.
But what they've forgotten is Miss was a bet, and it was a hard bet, and they really delivered. This is also a bet, whether they know it or not. This is a hard bet. This is the least mainstream idea they've had.
Interesting point.
Pandas, at least, at the very least, even if you really like that expansion, that did visually and in other ways attracted players that may not play otherwise.
Yeah.
So this is a return to something that seems foreign, that seems grunty, that seems dude game, bro.
Right.
And I'm
It
sure
might be
that they'll
off-putting to certain people that were
Right.
drawn in by Mists.
Absolutely. And I don't know, I mean, I think they can overcome that. They've done it before. I think they put all those Miss worries to sleep. So none of that was ever an issue, and it turned out to be great. So I have great confidence in it. It'll be great to get back to the gritty beginnings of this story.
That's a great point you bring up. I'm definitely excited about what looks like a major graphical upgrade in the character models they're touting, which I think is long overdue. When you look at Mists compared to some of the early areas of the game, it is so much more beautiful, and to see that now being kind of infused in the character models is exciting.
It is exciting. They're also doing something with the zones that I'm excited about. So we're going to a new world. This is, old world, but new world. This is Draenor. This is Outland before it was Outland.
Right.
And they're not
It's
just
inland.
It's inland, exactly. And they're not. It's cool because they're not going in and saying, let's cataclysm this biatch. Let's go in here and actually start fresh. Let's make this all new. That's exciting on its own way. But also, I've always been a fan, and I know I'm kind of alone in this sometimes, but I'm a fan of the darker, more sort of dread spaces of World of Warcraft. So when I'd walk into Old Azeroth, I liked the deserts, the emptiness, the kind of like, man, this is a scorched earth. So I'm into that already. That planet looks like it's mostly that, and I'm down with that. So visually, it's totally up my alley. It's very apocalyptic, kind of in a lot of ways, which is exciting. So I'm pretty stoked about where they're going.
It does look awesome. I think the big feature that they're touting, of course, is something that people were talking about 9 years ago when the game first started, which is sort of player housing, which they're calling garrisons.
Yeah.
That looks pretty cool, and it's sort of a finely, but it looks like they're doing it in the right way with tons of features. You get followers and all kinds of crazy stuff. Are you excited about player housing?
I'm really excited, except it's interesting, and you kind of touched on this, and I think it bears repeating. It's Blizzard's way of doing player housing. They tend to do this. Someone will say, ooh, Blizzard should do this, and then we all pound on their door saying, you should make this, do this, change this.
Yeah.
They'll eventually get around to it. They just don't do it the way everyone thinks they're going to do it. They could have just simply, years ago, said, well, here's player housing, and you zone in, and you get your stuff. And to them, they're like, is that really fun? I mean, people think it is, but is it? And they did this, I think, Heroes of the Storm, which we're hearing a lot about this week, is the same kind of thing. They're like, we can make a Dota clone. We know we have the ability, we have the talent, but they keep scrapping it. And every time they do, part of me goes, oh, and then part of me goes, yeah. Because that's what you guys do. You tweak and iterate until you are happy and the thing is fun and it's polished to all get out. This player housing thing is not going to be what we all thought we wanted, but it'll end up being something we love.
It's the Batman we need.
There you go.
Batman we deserve.
Everything goes back to Batman.
You made a great transition to Heroes of the Storm, which is the big new title that was not really announced, but sort of unveiled. I mean, we've known about it for years, known that they've been working on it, but they really are showing it in a big way, and it looks like it's closer to release.
Open beta soon.
Open beta soon. Trailer's awesome.
The
characters are awesome. The fact that you can play all the different Warcraft characters, Diablo, all their Blizzard characters, awesome. But it looks like, to me, what's the big new feature that makes this MOBA different than other MOBAs? Well, I got this Battlegrounds idea, but
there's
is
some
that
stuff
enough?
like that, and I would argue with you that it isn't enough. To make just another Dota clone is not enough. I think what does set it apart, and this is what sets WoW apart from other MMOs, it's what sets StarCraft apart from other RTSs, they really do care about these characters, and these characters are ones we care about. So when we play Hearthstone,
these people dressing up as
they
them.
love it, dude. Look at all these weirdos. In the nicest
best
way
possible
possible.
way.
I didn't mean that in a bad way. But like, if I want to play Hearthstone, part of the draw is that I know that minion, I killed a million of them. I love that Murloc because he poops out two just like him. Or it's these memories of things you've done before. They seem to really be wanting to play on that. So when you see, Nova standing out there with her gun, all I can think of is, not only did she only get bit parts in the StarCraft games, she was supposed to have her own title, and we're still fond of her as a character because Blizzard puts so much effort into these characters. Some you could argue a little two-dimensional occasionally, but it works in the long haul, and you can't wait to pull Arthas out and run down the lane with it.
I completely agree with you. The cynical side of me says that's exactly what Warner Brothers was betting on with the Infinite Crisis MOBA. That's exactly what the Lord of the Rings MOBA was supposed to be. If it's just the characters, but it's Blizzard. It's like Blizzard, they have something magical and special, and they keep finding that right gameplay loop. I'm hoping it doesn't just feel like every other MOBA.
Right. Well, part of the reason I think they've scrapped it, 3 times now or something like that, and then relaunched it as this new thing, I think that's what they butted into. I think whatever they butted into and said, scrap it, we're starting over, has been this, what is it, why is this special outside of League of Legends or Dota 2 or anything else? I also don't think it can be just the characters. I think they have the best chance of that being key, but I don't think that's the big thing. I think the big thing is something we haven't seen yet. Maybe our hands-on today and tomorrow will help us help explain that. We're just trying to get in there now. But in the long term of it, the way Blizzard works is they're not done till they're done, and when they're done, that typically means they're playing a game internally that we all really want. So I have, some of that is just blind hope and faith in Blizzard, but some of that is, it's earned. That's the point, is they have earned it.
And just to wrap up, the other two big pillars that have been here, Reaper of Souls, the Diablo 3 expansion, they're showing it on the floor, playable on PS4, which is exciting. And it's awesome. And Hearthstone, which is become a major franchise here.
It's blowing up.
It's a game I adore, and I love how creative they seem to be getting with some of the interesting cards that are. And I love how much emphasis they're putting on it. This isn't a side project anymore.
And I also think it builds some credibility when Blizzard stands up and says to everybody, we also agree the auction house was a mistake.
Biggest cheer of the opening scenario.
Blink-182 got nothing on that.
It's unbelievable. People are like, yes, you.
And it was already announced. Terrible. This wasn't even news. Like, this had already been put out. They'd already explained themselves in a video months ago. But still, even that, he got to say it again, and everybody cheered for it.
The biggest cheer was removing a feature.
Yeah, removing something.
Unbelievable.
Which is great, because what I want from the Diablo team is them to continue to build the Diablo that I love. And I don't know if you've played lately, but patch-wise and sort of content-wise and everything they've done to sort of tweak it to its current state, being prepared to lose the auction house, it is the best version of Diablo 3 they've had. So Reaper's Souls just looks to be more of what I love about Diablo, and I can't wait. That game, so stoked. So excited.
So it's a great year for BlizzCon. Thank you so much for joining
pleasure,
me,
man.
Scott.
My pleasure.
Lots to look forward to coming up. All right, before we go this week, I got a best bet for you. It's a little gadget love on the show. I picked up a new iPad Air. Now, if you've heard me talk about iPad before, I have unabashed love for that device. It's the first thing I touch in the morning. It's the last thing I touch at night. I love my iPad. I constantly use it. I've upgraded from the iPad with Retina, which I have to admit, I feel a little guilty about. There really isn't that much difference. Yes, it's lighter, a lot lighter. It's really surprising how much lighter. It's so light, it almost feels cheap, which, of course, it isn't. I like the new, more sort of rectangular flat back. It feels more like that science fiction fantasy tablet that I always imagined from growing up watching science fiction movies. And it really does, having the smaller bezel, it really does have a noticeable size differential. Look at that. But the real reason I upgraded was because I was told it was almost twice as fast with that new A7 processor, 80% faster. And while that's undoubtedly true, I don't really tell. Do some of my apps work slightly faster? Probably. But what I use my iPad for is surfing the web and using Twitter. And that stuff, not really noticeably faster. I'm digging it, and if you don't already have an iPad that has Retina, just that alone is worth the upgrade. I love it, I really love it, but it's hard for me to tell people that they need to upgrade right away because it just isn't that much better. All right, best bets from others. They have better ideas than I. I got a couple of really great people for you this week. Dave Chen from Slash Film. In fact, I was just on the Slash Filmcast. He does the Slash Filmcast every week over at Slash Film. I was just on talking about The Counselor. You can listen to that episode, but they're always great every week. And also my friend Michael Fox from one of my very favorite audio podcasts about board games, The Little Metal Dog Show. Take it away, guys.
Hello everyone, it's Dave Chen from SlashFilm.com, and today I'm here to recommend for my best bet a trilogy of films by director Nicholas Winding Refn. It's called the Pusher Trilogy, available right now on DVD for between $15 and $20. It's pretty much as good of a blind buy as you can get in terms of value. Nicholas Winding Refn is the director of films such as Drive and Bronson. He recently directed Only God Forgives. And this is my first exposure to him as a filmmaker. It's a really intense journey into the seedy underbelly of Danish crime syndicates. And it's really gritty. It's all filmed like handheld and looks like it was shot on like really grainy film. And there is an amazing performance by Mads Mikkelsen in the second film in the trilogy called Pusher 2 with Blood on My Hands. But all of them have some pretty amazing performances. And you will just see things in ways that you'll see sort of crime and sort of criminal enterprises depicted in a way that you never have before. And also, you know, really it's kind of like the anti-gangster film. You know, it takes away the glamour and the glitz from other popular depictions of what it's like to be a gangster. Instead, all that's left is just human ugliness and a lot of blood. So I'd highly recommend the Pusher Trilogy. It is at times thrilling, but also really moving unexpectedly, and it's probably as best of a bet as you can get. Hope you enjoy it. Thanks.
Hi guys, this is Michael Fox from Sprocket Games, the world's tiniest games production company, and also a little podcast that you might have heard called The Little Metal Dog Show. Jeff has inexplicably asked me to come on and give a couple of recommendations. So who am I to refuse such a handsome and virile man? As you can see, there's quite a pile of board games over there. So the first recommendation has to be a board game. Kind of. It's an expansion to The Mighty Last Will. Very, very underrated game. I wish more people would play it, but this one came out at Essen this year. Last Will is essentially Brewster's Millions, the game, where you have a lot of money and you're trying to get rid of it all in order to get more money. Last Will adds a few extra little bits to the proceedings. Randomised board for really, really messing up your plans. You have to get a job, which is horrible. You have to get married, which is even worse. But it adds so much to to an already excellent game. It's fantastic when expansions really, really enhance the gaming experience. Also on the subject of games, but in a slightly more digital fashion, this one, Dragon's Crown. This is of course the PS Vita version, but it's also available on PS3. If you take Golden Axe, the old school side-scrolling beat-em-up arcade game, throw in a very, very deep RPG with some fantastic magic elements and just insane graphics, you will get the wonderful Dragon's Crown, and I thoroughly, thoroughly recommend it. Especially the online play. Really, really, really good. But anyway, that's enough for me. Thank you very much indeed for listening to me gabble on. That's what I do. And thanks to Jeff for letting me come on, and thanks to you for watching. Bye.
That does it for this week's NLB. Thank you to Alex Albrecht for hanging out again. Thank you to Dave Chen and Michael Fox for their awesome best bets. Thank you to everybody who came up to me at Blizzcon. That was really fun. I really appreciate it. Thank you for watching. And until next week, you know it, you love it. Do your best. We have so much in store. It's hardcore. It's like you're a Mexican wrestler, luchador. You're not gonna fall asleep. You really won't snore. If it was a character from a horror story, it would be Frankenstein's assistant. Igor!
Okay, all right.